Your boyfriend isn't welcome at New Year's, Dad said. We don't want that near the kids. I answered. Then I won't be there either. Mom texted. Fine, more food for us. 6 months later, we got engaged. When his family, who own a $47 million hotel chain, covered our $280,000 wedding and my parents weren't invited. What if the people you love most, the ones who raised you, suddenly turn their backs on you all because of who you dared to love? And what if, in that devastating moment, you realized they were weaponizing your own child against you? My story isn't just about New Year's Eve. It's about the day I finally stopped begging for a seat at a table that wouldn't even set a plate for my son. Voice shifts, a slight tremble of lingering anger. It started with a foil pan of baked mac and cheese, still warm in my hands, as I stood in my parents' entryway. My dad, leaning in like he was doing me some huge favor, dropped the bomb. Your boyfriend can't come to New Year's. My son, Noah, was right behind me. He was only 8, usually so quiet, already bouncing on the balls of his feet in the plastic top hat he'd picked out. He'd spent the whole car ride practicing his countdown whispers. I blinked. What? My dad's voice stayed flat, devoid of warmth. We don't want that around the kids. A pause, a catch in the narrator's voice. Noah's smile just slipped. No dramatic cry, just this instant shutoff, like someone dimmed a light inside him. My throat seized up so hard, I tasted metal. I stared at my dad, the man whose approval I'd chased my entire life, and I heard my own voice, calm, clear, almost unnervingly steady, say, "Then I'm not coming either." My mom was right there in the hallway, already irritated, already done. She didn't even pretend to be surprised. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just turned, grabbed Noah's tiny overnight bag, and walked back out into the bitter cold. By the time I buckled Noah into the car, my phone buzzed. It was my mom. Good. More food for us. A short, humorless laugh. I sat there, hand still on the steering wheel, staring at that text until the screen went dark. Noah was looking out the window, studying the frost on the glass, like if he focused hard enough, he wouldn't have to feel anything. Then, so quietly, he asked, "Did I do something wrong?" Voice filled with a profound sadness, that question. That was the real punch. Not my dad's cruel words. Not my mom's petty jab. It was that soft, careful question from a kid who always tried to take up less space. "No," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "You didn't do anything wrong." He nodded, wanting so badly to believe me. Then he went silent again. And in that overwhelming quiet, I finally admitted what I'd been refusing to name for years. This wasn't just about Lucas being not welcome. This was about me finally not being useful in the way they preferred. As long as I was the family helper, the family fixer, the family walking wallet, my personal life didn't matter. But the second I asked them to treat the person I loved like a human being, suddenly, I was bringing something around the kids. I drove home with my jaw clenched so tight my cheeks ached. And I knew, with a chilling certainty, that this wasn't going to end with me just skipping a party. Voice becomes a bit more explanatory, like sharing background info with a friend. My name's Carrie. At 34, I was living just outside Charlotte, North Carolina, in a small townhouse that always smelled faintly of hair product and vanilla candles. I'm a makeup artist. Weddings, photo shoots, theater gigs, anyone who wanted to look like a more rested version of themselves. I'd built my business from nothing after my divorce. My ex-wife and I split when Noah was a toddler. We co-parented fine. But my parents? They acted like the divorce was proof I was defective, like I'd embarrassed them. Then, a few years later, I fell in love with a man. My parents didn't use slurs. They didn't have to. They used tone. They used silence. They used phrases like, "We just don't understand why you have to make it your whole personality." Even when I wasn't making anything a personality, I was just living. Lucas and I met when I did makeup for a charity gala. He was there, sleeves rolled up, actually working, not just posing for photos. He had this calm, steady way about him, like nothing could knock him off center. He asked about my brushes like he genuinely cared. He remembered Noah's name after meeting him once. The first time Noah spilled juice on Lucas's shirt, Lucas just laughed and said, "Buddy, I've worn worse for less." Noah liked him immediately, which, of course, meant I liked him even more. My parents, though? They treated Lucas like a bad influence, like he was a loud, neon sign that would confuse children simply by existing. And here's the thing. I might have swallowed that disrespect longer if it had only been aimed at me. But it wasn't. It always bled onto Noah. Little things at first. Family photos where my sister's kids were pulled front and center, while Noah was tucked off to the side like an accessory. Birthday parties where there was always an "oops, we didn't realize he'd be here" 2 extra slice of pizza comment. Or that saccharine sweet voice, "He's sensitive, isn't he?" said with that smile adults use when they're not asking a question. I kept telling myself it was awkwardness. Generational adjustment. I kept telling myself they would come around. And I kept paying for things. Because in my family, money was the language of love and control, all wrapped together. When my dad's truck needed repairs, I paid the mechanic directly $1 for 50. When my mom said property taxes were higher than expected, I transferred $2,000 and told her not to worry. When my sister needed help with daycare for just a month, it turned into 6 months, $300 a week, every week, automatically. There was even a joint account I opened with my mom after she cried about not having a cushion. It was supposed to be for emergencies. Somehow, the emergencies kept happening right after I got paid. I told myself it was family. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself it was better than fighting. But standing in that doorway on New Year's Eve, watching Noah's face fall because my dad decided Lucas was that, I realized something simple, yet shattering. I had been buying a seat at a table that still wouldn't set a plate for my kid. Voice becomes more determined, edges of simmering anger. New Year's Eve had always been my mom's thing. She loved control, loved planning, loved assigning dishes like she was running a catering business. That year, she texted a full list. Bring mac and cheese. Bring sparkling cider. Bring the little plastic horns for the kids. And Carrie, don't make this weird. That last line? It wasn't about the food. It was about Lucas. We'd already agreed Lucas would come late. After a small bridal trial he'd squeezed in for extra cash. He wasn't even going to be there for long. Just an hour, a kiss at midnight, a normal holiday moment. I didn't think I was asking for the moon. Apparently I was. After my dad laid down his decree, I walked out and drove home. I didn't cry in the car. I didn't scream. I just drove, hands steady on the wheel. Like if I stayed controlled, I'd stay safe. Noah sat in the back, clutching a little paper bag of party favors he'd packed himself. 2 noisemakers, 2 hats, and a tiny envelope with glitter. Stickers. He'd been so excited to give 1 hat to Lucas and 1 to Grandpa. That was the part that gutted me. He was trying to include everybody. He didn't understand why adults couldn't do the same. When we got home, I put the mac and cheese in the fridge, still wrapped in foil, a sad leftover of a life I kept trying to force. Noah sat on the couch and turned on a cartoon, volume low. I went to my bedroom and stared at the wall for a full minute before I moved. Then I grabbed my laptop. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I finally wanted peace. The joint account with my mom was open in my banking app, with 1 click. Balance: $9,842. That money was supposed to be for emergencies. But the last 3 withdrawals? $600 for kitchen cabinet deposit. $450 for sister's tires. $300 for groceries. None of those were emergencies. They were expectations. And I knew, with a clarity that felt almost calm, that if I let tonight slide, the next line would come even easier for them to cross. First it was, don't bring him. Then it would be, don't talk about him. Then it would be, don't let Noah talk about him. And my son would learn that love was something you hid to keep other people comfortable. I wasn't teaching him that. So I made one decision. I closed the joint account. Not transferred the money out and left it open. Not froze it to think about it. Closed. I clicked through the prompts, read the warnings, and hit confirm. A final screen popped up. Account closed successfully. I stared at it longer than I needed to, like it might evaporate. Then I set my laptop down, walked back into the living room, and sat next to Noah. He didn't look at me right away. "Can we still do New Year's?" he asked quietly. "Yeah," I said. "We can." He frowned a little. "Just us." I thought about Lucas, probably wiping powder off his hands, driving across town, expecting to walk into my parents' house and get quietly tolerated at best. I swallowed. "Just us tonight," I said. And then I added, because Noah deserved the truth in kid-sized pieces, "and tomorrow, we'll do something with Lucas." Noah nodded and leaned into my shoulder, like he was tired all the way down to his bones. At 11:58, we watched the countdown on TV. At midnight, I kissed Noah's forehead and told him I loved him. No big party. No forced smiles. No pretending. And it was still better than anything my parents were offering. Voice becomes sharper, a hint of satisfaction mixed with the lingering frustration. The fallout started before the champagne had even gone flat at my parents' house. At 12:17 a.m., my mom called. I didn't answer. At 12:22, my dad called. I didn't answer. At 12:45, my sister texted a dramatic paragraph about ruining the holiday and making it about you again. At 10:03 a.m., my mom texted again. "Mom, did you really leave us hanging like that over him?" I stared at the word him. Like Lucas was an appliance I'd brought into their home without permission. Like my relationship was a reckless hobby. I didn't reply. I put my phone face down. The next morning, while Noah ate cereal in his pajamas, my mom texted again. "Mom, the account won't let me log in. Call me." So, the party line was officially shifting. Not, "We're sorry." Not, "Your dad shouldn't have said that." Not, "Tell Noah we love him." Just, "Call me. The money isn't working." My stomach did that weird hollow drop. Not from guilt, but from how predictable it was. Noah looked up at me. "Is Grandma mad?" I kept my voice even. "Grandma's having big feelings." He nodded like he understood adults had storms inside them, too. I waited until he was distracted with his Legos. Then I typed one message. I closed the joint account. I'm not funding a family that treats my partner like a problem. And I'm not bringing Noah around people who talk like that. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then my mom sent. "Mom, wow. So, you're choosing your lifestyle over your parents." A bitter chuckle, there it was. The script. I didn't debate. I didn't try to educate her. I didn't write a 10-page explanation. I just replied. Me? I'm choosing my child's safety and my own dignity. Then I muted the thread. Not blocked, not dramatic, muted. Because I knew they'd keep talking, and I knew I didn't owe them an audience anymore. Lucas came over that afternoon with takeout and a bag of party hats from the grocery store. He didn't knock like he was afraid of taking up space. He walked in like he belonged. Because he did. Noah ran to him and held up the hat he'd originally meant to give him. Lucas put it on immediately, tilted it, and said, "How do I look?" Noah grinned, the first real grin in 24 hours. Silly. Lucas sat on the floor and built Legos with him like it was the most important meeting in the world. Later, when Noah was brushing his teeth, Lucas sat next to me on the couch. "I'm guessing it was bad," he said gently. I nodded. "My dad said you can't come around the kids." Lucas's face tightened. Not in anger, but in disappointment. Like he'd hoped for better, but wasn't shocked. "I'm sorry," I whispered, and then I hated myself for apologizing to the person who'd been insulted. Lucas reached for my hand. "Don't apologize for them," he said. "Just tell me what you need." What I needed was simple. I needed to stop pretending my parents' love was something I could earn with enough payments and enough silence. "I already did it," I said. I closed the account. Lucas exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. Good. That was it. No lecture. No, "Are you sure?" No guilt. Just good. And something unclenched in my chest. Voice softens, but remains strong, reflecting growth. Over the next few weeks, my parents tried every angle. My sister sent messages like, "Do you know how stressed Mom is?" And Dad can't sleep because of this. My mom tried the soft approach. We miss Noah. Then, when that didn't work, she tried the sharp one. You're punishing your whole family because you're angry. My dad tried the wounded one. After everything we did for you. I stared at that message for a long time. Everything they did for me had always come with a price. Obedience. Silence. Gratitude that looked suspiciously like compliance. And the wild part was I did feel grief. Not because I missed them as they were, but because I missed the version of them I kept hoping they could be. Noah didn't ask to see them again for a while. That alone told me how deep the cut had been. Kids don't hold grudges the way adults accuse them of. Kids just learn patterns. And Noah was learning that Grandpa's house wasn't safe for the people Noah loved. One evening in February, Noah brought me a drawing. 3 stick figures holding hands. Me, Noah, and Lucas. Above our heads, he'd drawn fireworks.
New Year's, he said.
I swallowed hard. I love it. He nodded, satisfied. This is our family. I put it on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a little lemon and I left it there. 6 months later, Lucas proposed. It wasn't flashy. It was Lucas. He took Noah and me to a small lake park on a Sunday afternoon. We brought sandwiches. Noah threw rocks. Lucas looked nervous. In that way, calm people only look when something really matters. When Noah ran ahead to chase ducks, Lucas took my hand and said, I want to do this for real. He pulled out a simple ring. Nothing huge, just classic and steady like him. I laughed because I was crying and I didn't know what else to do. Yes, I said. Yes. Noah came back and saw us hugging. He squinted. Are you guys happy crying? Lucas wiped his eyes and said, a little. Noah nodded like that made perfect sense. Then he said, does that mean Lucas is my stepdad? Lucas looked at him. If you want me to be. Noah didn't hesitate. Okay. And that was it. No speeches, no conditions.
Just okay.
Voice takes on a hint of disbelief, acknowledging the stark contrast. Here's where my life split into 2 very different worlds. In my world, I was still hustling, still doing early bridal calls, still cleaning brushes at midnight. In Lucas's world, his family had money I didn't even know how to talk about. His parents weren't snobby, which almost made it harder to process. They didn't wave their wealth around. They just had it. They owned a hotel chain, not a cute little boutique place, a real chain. Later, I learned the portfolio was valued around $47 million. The first time I visited one of their properties, I felt like I was wearing my skin wrong. Like everyone could tell I grew up counting pennies. Lucas's mom hugged me like she'd been waiting years to do it. She asked about my work. She asked about Noah's school. She asked what Noah liked for breakfast. Lucas's dad shook my hand and said, we're glad you're here. Then he looked right at Noah and said, we're glad you're here, too, buddy. Noah beamed. No hesitation. No, kids don't need to see that. Just welcome. They didn't buy Noah's love. They earned it the way adults are supposed to. By showing up. By listening. By being kind. When we started planning the wedding, I assumed we'd do something small. Backyard. A nice dinner. Maybe a small venue if my savings allowed. Lucas's parents sat us down and said, we'd like to pay for it. I tried to refuse. My entire body went into panic mode because in my family, money was never just money. Lucas's mom said, Carrie, this isn't a leash. This is a gift. Lucas squeezed my hand under the table, like he was telling me, you're allowed to accept love without earning it through suffering. We ended up with a wedding budget that felt unreal. $280,000. A number so big my brain tried to reject it like a glitch. It was held at one of their hotels, a stunning property with warm lighting and old wood floors, and staff that treated me like I mattered. And for the first time in my life, I had to face a strange truth. People could be generous without using it to control me. I cried in the fitting room while Noah tried on his little suit and complained about the collar. Lucas's sister helped me breathe and said, it's okay. It's a lot. We know that. That kindness made me cry harder. Voice becomes firm, a sense of quiet power. I didn't rush to tell my parents about the engagement. Not because I wanted to punish them, but because I didn't want to hand them another weapon. Eventually, I sent a simple message. Lucas and I are engaged. I'm letting you know because you're my parents. I still need you to respect my family if you want to be part of our lives. My mom replied a day later. Mom, congratulations. Tell No, we love him. We still don't agree with your choices. I stared at that last line. We still don't agree with your choices. Like I'd chosen a tattoo. Like I'd chosen a bad haircut. Not like I'd chosen love. Not like I'd chosen a home. I didn't respond. And I made another choice, quietly, one that felt like setting down a heavy box I'd been carrying for too long. I didn't invite them. No dramatic announcement. No, you're cut off forever speech. Just no invitation. Because the truth was simple. A wedding is where you gather the people who have protected your joy. My parents had tried to poison it. They didn't get to sit in a front row seat for something they tried to shame out of me. They found out anyway. People always do. A cousin saw a save the date on social media. Someone talked. My sister called me for the first time in months. Her voice was sharp. Are you serious? Mom's crying. I kept my voice calm. I'm not doing this. You're really going to marry into money and forget where you came from? She spat. That one actually made me laugh, short and humorless. Where I came from? I said. You mean the place where my son was treated like collateral damage? The place where my partner was called that? She went quiet, then snapped. Dad was just protecting the kids. I felt my patience drain like water. No, I said. He was protecting his comfort at Noah's expense. She tried the guilt angle. Mom says you owe her. A sigh, a deep weariness in the voice, and there it was again. Oh, always. I looked over at Noah, who was on the floor drawing little tuxedos on stick figures, planning what he wanted the grooms to wear. I lowered my voice. I don't owe you access to my life, I said. And I don't owe you my money. She hung up. I sat there shaking. Not from fear, but from the weird aftermath of finally not bending. Lucas came up behind me and put his hands on my shoulders. You okay? He asked. I nodded slowly. I will be, I said. And I meant it. The wedding day was bright and clean, and strangely quiet in the best way. No chaos from my mother. No last-minute guilt text. No dad acting like the king of the room. Just me, Lucas, and Noah in a suite with big windows. Noah had a tiny boutonniere pinned to his shirt, and he kept touching it like it was a magic button. Do I look fancy? He asked. You look like you own the place, Lucas said. Noah grinned. We kind of do. Lucas laughed, a real laugh, and kissed the top of Noah's head. At the ceremony, Noah walked between us with a small ring box, serious as a judge. When the officiant asked who supported our marriage, Lucas's family stood up like it was the easiest thing in the world. So did a few friends from my life, 2 fellow artists I'd worked with for years. A neighbor who'd watched Noah when I had early calls. A cousin who'd quietly texted me after New Year's and said, I'm sorry. They're wrong. There were empty seats in the back of the room, but not because I saved them. Because I stopped saving space for people who wouldn't show up with love. When I said my vows, I didn't mention my parents. I didn't give them free real estate in my joy. I looked at Lucas and I said, you made a home with me when I didn't know if I deserved one. Lucas's eyes went wet. He squeezed my hands. Noah sniffled dramatically, like he wanted everyone to know he was having feelings, too. Afterward, at the reception, Lucas's mom pulled me into a hug and whispered, you did good. You protected your boy. That sentence settled into me like a warm blanket. Because that was the whole point. Voice becomes resolute, a deep sense of peace. Of course, my parents didn't take it quietly. My mom sent a message the next day. Mom, I heard it was some big fancy wedding. Must be nice. Noah should have been with real family. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Lucas was in the kitchen making coffee. Noah was on the couch eating pancakes in his suit pants because he refused to take them off yet. I didn't write back a paragraph. I didn't explain. I didn't defend myself. I sent one sentence. I won't fund or entertain people who treat my family like a mistake. Then I blocked her number. Not in anger. In protection. One clean move. A door closed softly, but completely. 6 months after New Year's, after the engagement, after the wedding, I realized something that surprised me. The quiet wasn't empty. It was peaceful. Noah stopped asking why Grandma didn't call. He stopped flinching when my phone buzzed. He started inviting Lucas into his little daily routines without thinking about it. Lucas, can you help me with my homework? Lucas, watch this. Lucas, can we make cookies? Lucas showed up every time. One night in December, almost a full year after that doorway moment, Noah came into our bedroom holding a folded piece of paper. I made something, he said. It was a drawing. 3 people again, me, Lucas, Noah. But this time, Noah had drawn a big table with plates and candles. At the top, he'd written in careful block letters, "Our New Year." Lucas sat up and asked, "Where are we doing it?" Noah pointed to the center of the drawing. "Here." I swallowed, because I realized he wasn't mourning what he lost anymore. He was building what he deserved. On New Year's Eve, we stayed home. We made food Noah actually liked. We wore pajamas. We played board games. At 11:55, Noah handed Lucas a dollar store party hat and handed me one too. "Everybody gets one," Noah said firmly, like he was establishing a law. Lucas put his on and gave Noah a little salute. "Yes, sir." At midnight, Noah counted down louder than he did the year before. When the clock hit 12, Lucas kissed me and Noah yelled, "Happy New Year," and blew his horn so hard it sounded like a dying goose. We laughed until we couldn't breathe. Later, when Noah fell asleep, curled between us on the couch, Lucas looked at me and said softly, "Do you miss them?" I thought about my dad's voice saying, "We don't want that around the kids." I thought about my mom's text, "Good, more food for us." I thought about how they'd panicked more over a bank account than over a little boy's hurt face. And I looked down at Noah, safe and warm and loved. "I miss what I wanted them to be," I said. "But I don't miss what they are." Lucas nodded like he understood completely. I carried Noah to bed and tucked him in. Before I turned off the light, I taped his Our New Year drawing to the wall beside his desk. Not the fridge, not a drawer. The wall, where it couldn't be ignored, where it would stay. Because I wasn't raising a kid who learned to shrink to fit other people's comfort. I was raising a kid who understood something my parents never did. You don't get to call yourself family if you treat someone like they don't belong. And you definitely don't get to keep my money, my effort, and my silence while you do it. Voice becomes direct and inviting. Has anyone else ever had to draw such a painful line with their own family? What did you do when the people you loved demanded you compromise on your own happiness or the safety of your children? I'd really love to hear your experiences and thoughts in the comments below.